Hello, this video is about the causes and effects of the American Revolutionary War. As mentioned in the previous video, we talked about some of the effects of the French and Indian War, and the big one of that is the new taxes that are going to be placed on the colonists. And this is done through various acts such as the Stamp Act, the Tea Act, and so on. But again, all these acts putting the taxes on the colonists. And for the most part, the colonists don't have an issue with the taxes. We understand war is expensive. We're technically still a part of Britain. We have to pay our dues. But the big cry here is no taxation without representation. We have no voice in the government to determine what taxes are going to be imposed, how much, on who. So they just want some representation. They want some voice on what's taking place here. Boston Massacre is the next big event that's going to lead up to the Revolutionary War. And with this incident, we have some British soldiers who are being pestered by some colonists. They're throwing rocks and various objects at the soldiers, and it drew a crowd of a couple of hundred to kind of see what was going on. And towards the end here, the British soldiers, get fed up and they fire some shots, and it's going to kill some of the colonists within the crowd. This is going to be used as a propaganda tool, as a rallying cry to kind of get the colonists more encouraged to go to war against Britain because, these British soldiers, they killed colonists. But not the whole story is portrayed. It's not told who started it. Well, it was the colonists who were pestering the soldiers. Should the soldiers fire shots into the crowd? No, they shouldn't have, but they did kill some people. But it was the colonists who started it. But again, the whole story wasn't portrayed. And the Boston Massacre is a big event that's going to lead to a hate of the crown and a desire to revolt. The last one is the Boston Tea Party. And this deals somewhat with the tea taxes placed on the colonists, but not just the tax itself, but the colonists are also being told they could only buy tea from the crown. They can't go out and buy it from another country, such as the East India Company or someone else. So the colonists, again, not upset with what's being told from Britain, and they go on to one of these British ships, and they dump approximately 9,000 pounds of tea into the harbor there in Boston. Now, no damage was done to the ship, to the people working on the ship, but it was a big protest of dumping the tea in. And 9,000 pounds of tea, that's not cheap. Somebody had to pay for it. And therefore, what Britain does here is they shut down the Boston harbor, and no more ships are allowed in or out, which is going to stop all importing and exporting until the price of the tea is made up for by Boston. And these are the big three things here that are going to lead up to the American Revolutionary War. So as we go through the war, we get to the effects here, just like with the French and Indian War. Treaty of Paris brings it to an end. This is going to be in 1783. And with the signing of the Treaty of Paris, we're going to see now the independence of the United States, who are now our own country. With this, we are quickly going to see a westward expansion. If you recall from the French and Indian War, one of the effects there was the Proclamation of 1763, which put a line along the Appalachian Mountain Range here in the bottom right. Settlement past this line cannot happen. This is what Britain was telling the colonists. Well, now that that's done, Britain's no longer a factor. We will now see settlement past the Appalachians. And the United States is going to gain territory all the way up to the Mississippi. Now, keep in mind, this is an open territory. We still have hundreds of Native American tribes in the area, so conflicts with Native Americans will continue as we go west all the way to the Pacific Ocean, which will be talked about later. And lastly, last effect here of the American Revolutionary War, we're going to have the formation of a representative government. People now have a voice in what's going to be done to form the government to start, this new country, the United States, and that's all going to start with the Articles of Confederation, later on to the Constitution, which is going to give us all the rights that we have today. Thanks for listening to the causes and effects of the American Revolutionary War. As always, stay curious, stay inspired. Until next time, happy learning.